Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the final edition of Women in Business. And it feels weird to say that. I'm not going to lie. I wondered how I would feel today. I wondered if I would be really sad, or if I would be happy, or if I would be a mixture of the two. And honestly, a little sad, a little bit, but at the same time, proud of what this show was and what it did for me personally and what I learned from it. And that was and is probably why it's ending now, because I feel like I've gotten everything I could get out of it. But there's a lot to talk about. I don't want to give away my big points at the very beginning. Hello, Carolyn. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. So, there are no little banners today. There are no little topics, really. This is just me spitballing and rambling. It'll go as long as it goes, and then it's done. And this will be done. And the first thing that I want to start with, really sincerely, truly, from the bottom of my heart and soul and whatever else you might want, thank you to everybody who was on the show, to everybody who watched the show, to all of you who supported the show, either monetarily or helped publicize it or whatever you did. When I started this, I was pretty convinced nobody was ever going to want to come on the show. 100 and however many episodes it's been later. And I started counting and then I lost interest. And I was like, it's like 112 or 18 or something like that. But a lot of those shows had guests. A lot of those shows had people who took time out of their days to come and spend time talking to me, telling their stories. They didn't have to do that. They weren't being paid to do that. This show certainly wasn't going to give them a bump in their publicity necessarily. They just did it because they wanted to have a good conversation, and maybe they thought their story could help somebody, or maybe they just took pity on me and thought, this poor woman, I need to go talk to her. I don't know, but they did come and they did tell their stories and they did share things that maybe they didn't expect to share. And that's amazing. That I feel so incredibly privileged that I was able to hear those stories and talk to those women and learn from them and share with them and hopefully put some more information out into the world that could help some people. I thought that was wonderful, and I was so pleased and proud that I had a little part in that. It made me very, very happy. And to all the people who joined Patreon when I set one up, or sent me money through Buy Me a Coffee so they could support this show, I appreciate that. The money that you sent me is squirreled away, and once I figure out what I'm doing next, there will be a new microphone and there will be better lighting and there will be all sorts of hopefully cool and fun things that I can do. And that's, again, you didn't have to do that. Nobody had to spend any of their hard-earned money supporting what I was doing. Nobody had to do that. People chose to, which is amazing to me, but you didn't have to. It wasn't required. So the fact that people had enough faith in me to think that what I was doing was worth investing in, that's huge. So thank you for that. And thank you to all the people who watched. If you ever showed up and left a comment, or showed up and didn't leave a comment, if you just showed up and watched, if you caught it on the replay, whatever it was, you spent time on something that I did. And that means a huge amount to me. So I'm not stopping this. How do I want to put this the right way? I felt like it was time for this to be done. Let's put it that way. And I felt like I had done what I wanted to do with this show. And there are a couple of reasons for that. When I started this, I had no plan or no thought of anything beyond, let's see if I can do this. First of all, let's see if I can look at my face on camera and not fixate at how big my nose on things like how big my nose is, which is what I was fixating on today. Or, get so just ill at the sight of my own face that I can't stand it anymore. Let's see if I can do that. That was really one of the main kind of propellants behind starting this show in the first place. Was, can I be on camera, and can I be relaxed and comfortable on camera, and can I do it regularly? Because I didn't know if I could. I thought there was a pretty good chance that maybe I couldn't. And that has anybody who has watched this show or has heard me talk anywhere else for any length of time knows that I have body image issues, that I have weight issues, that I have appearance issues, that I have a lot of issues that have to do with things I'm not going to go into now. But that was really one of the reasons that I started this show was, okay, can I be on camera and be okay with it? Can I be on camera and still be on camera even if I do fixate on how big my nose is, or how round my face is, or how I have a double chin, or whatever the thing is that day? Can I do it? Turned out I could, which I would not have given you odds on when I started out. Would never ever have given you any odds that this would still be going 2 years later. Never would have done it. Now, you have to understand, though, in those 2 years, I have changed a lot in how I relate to my appearance and myself in general. Carolyn, who is watching the show today, she sent me a while ago, and I looked for it this morning and I couldn't find it. A side-by-side comparison of the way I looked in one of the first shows and the way I looked in one of the much later shows. It's a night and day difference. The way I look now, the fact that I'm this put together, that was not something I ever did. I look back now at my old appearances on shows and I'm like, oh my God, girl, what were you thinking? But at that point in my head, I couldn't compete on appearance. I couldn't compete on clothing. I was always going to fall short. So why even spend the time on it? So I never did. And then when I started doing the show regularly, I started changing how I dressed a little bit. I started feeling better about myself. Carolyn nudged me until I got some lipstick, and lipstick led to taking a little more time with my makeup. And I got the hair dialed in the way I wanted it. And I started realizing that, oh, well, I'm not like a raving beauty, but I'm not actively ugly either. There are things I can do to feel better about myself that don't have to make me uncomfortable, that don't have to take 5 years. And I can be palatable this way. And for me, that was a huge victory, because I had spent most of my life up to that time thinking that, number one, I couldn't compete, and number two, that it was wrong to want to. And the wrong to want to part was more, I knew I couldn't. So it's like the kid who really wants to get picked for the team but doesn't. So then they say, well, I didn't want to play anyway. That was pretty much me. I really, really wanted to be picked for the team, but I kind of figured I couldn't make it. So I just pretended that I didn't care. So all that stuff where I was wearing the bad clothes and I wasn't wearing a lot of makeup and I wasn't doing anything, wasn't wearing jewelry and I wasn't doing anything, that was me basically pretending I didn't care, pretending that it didn't matter. And of course it mattered. I'm as human as anybody else. Of course it mattered. But I didn't want to admit that, because if you admit that it matters, then people can hurt you with it. And I didn't want that. So that was another thing, another part of the fear of going on camera too. If you go on camera, people can see you. And if people can see you, they can judge you. And if people can judge you, they can hurt you. So it was all this big ball of fear and anger and hurt and worry that I wouldn't measure up and all this stuff. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I had no stakes in it in the beginning, honestly. I kind of figured I'd do one or two and it would be done and it'd be over. I really did. I never, if someone had told me then that I'd be saying this is the final one over 2 years later, never would have believed you. Never in a million years. But here we are. So it just goes to show that sometimes doing the thing you're afraid of, and sometimes doing the thing that's hard, and sometimes doing the thing when you don't have a plan, just jumping in and going, this is the thing I should do, is the way to do it. Because I know a lot of people who say, well, I don't know how that would work, or I don't know what I would do, or, I don't know how this would be. And I'm like, well, I didn't know either. I had zero plan when this started, which is maybe one of the reasons that it's ending, because I didn't have a plan for how to take it to the next level. I didn't have a plan for what would happen if it went longer than 2 months. I didn't have any plan for that. I didn't really know where I wanted it to go. I didn't realize, honestly, until I was a ways into it, that I really wanted to invest in it. I kind of had just had it in my head that, oh, this is this thing I'm just trying and we'll see how it goes. And if it crashes and burns, well, that's life and we move on. Not necessarily so. Apparently I cared more than I thought I did. Who knew? Probably everybody who wasn't me knew, but I made myself laugh. So really the first thing that I do want to say is just thank you. Thank you to everybody who was on the show. Thank you for all the lessons you taught me. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the fun comments. Thank you for all of it. That means a lot. It means a lot that you invested time in something that I created. I love it. Now, next topic. Why it's ending. Because honestly, I could trundle along forever, sitting up here once a week, talking to the camera, talking about my life, talking about whatever. I could scoop up a guest every once in a while and have them on. It would be all right. It wouldn't be bad. Would be. Here's the thing, though, that once I realized that I really liked this, that I liked doing it, I also realized that, hey, I kind of like an audience too. And honestly, I never pushed this to build an audience. And by the time I realized that, hey, maybe I wanted one, I got caught up in two things. Number one, I'd started doing a bunch of other stuff that was taking a lot of time. And number two, I still have the thing where I'm really, really good at promoting other people and not good at promoting my own stuff. Something I need to work on. I know this, but it's something I need to take some time to work on. I need the space to work on it. And I don't know that I can do that while I'm trying to do this, because while I'm trying to do this and I'm not promoting it, I now feel guilty and I beat myself up over the fact that I'm not promoting it. And I feel like I should be promoting it and I should be doing more with it and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, I'm in this shame spiral and we're getting nowhere. So it's better to just say, this is done for now. I'm drawing a line under this and I'm going to go learn. I'm going to learn more about podcasting and more about lighting and more about monetizing a podcast and more about where I can put it and more about all the stuff that I need to know to do another one and maybe take it to a higher level. Because honestly, when I started this, I had no flipping clue. I had no flipping clue how to do this. I had no clue if it was going to last. I had no clue how to light it, how to produce it, how to promote it, how to do anything with it. It was just literally me sitting down in my kitchen one day, or my dining room at that time, one day and saying, okay, let's do this. And then I lined up some guests. Most of my original guests were, friends of mine that I knew from my job or various things in the industry or whatever. And we just did it. And there was no plan. And I never really had any expectation that anything would happen to it. And maybe that's another thing that has changed a little bit about me is I've realized that, hey, I can create things. And hey, I can do things. And this is something, I can create something that other people want to watch. I can be somebody that other people want to watch. Talk about revelations. Ooh, that was a big one. And I had to wrap my head around that. And once I wrapped my head around it, I was like, well, is this the platform? Is this the venue? It's a good platform. Not, I don't have any problem with it. I do feel strongly about women's issues. I do feel strongly about promoting women. I run a whole group on Facebook for that. I do feel strongly about it. But honestly, I felt like this particular platform was a little confining. I wanted to do more. So it may be that once I do my studying and get my head in the right place, I decide to start a couple of shows. And anything is possible. Anything is possible. And we do have, I don't know who this is, but a Facebook user said, hello, happy to catch you live for your celebratory episode on To New Things. Definitely. And then I don't know if this is the same one, the same Facebook user or a different one, but this person says, I admire that you stepped outside your box to try this and that you recognize that this is done for now. For now. I'm not going to lie. The Facebook, I kind of thought it was. The Facebook user is Lisa Shaw. StreamYard hates you. StreamYard doesn't hate you. It's just finicky. And I know that's annoying and I'm sorry, but I don't know. Maybe part of my studies is figuring out a new platform to use. Who knows? Even though StreamYard has been very good to me, I have to say. So, but when I started thinking about maybe it's time to say this is done. Maybe it's time to say this is over. I really, really struggled with it because part of me felt like there was a mission and I owed it to, I don't know who, to keep going and all this. And then I realized that, you know what? Most people aren't paying attention to this. Honestly. I mean, they know it's there and maybe they catch an episode every once in a while, but I haven't done anything to promote this. It doesn't have a huge following. People aren't buzzing about it the next day. It's just this little thing that I do. And it maybe makes a little ripple in the pond sometimes, and that's nice. But if it's not there, something else will make a ripple, and that will be fine too. And yeah, the egoist performer part of me was like, well, that sucks. Why isn't everybody paying attention to me? I'm going to take my ball and go home. So there's a little bit of that too, even though I am fully aware that I did not promote this, that I did not put it out there, that I did not do anything to pull in eyeballs. So why should I expect that simply because I'm a talking head once a week, everybody's going to want to come and watch? And yes, Lisa just hit it right on the head for me. Self-promotion is always a struggle for me. Oh, such a struggle for me. Oh, Moya's here. Hi, Moya. Thank you for joining us. And no, your name is not showing, so thank you for telling us who you were. I appreciate you being here. Self-promotion has always been a huge struggle for me. It's part of the reason that I need to go away and work on some things, because I need to get over this hurdle, because it feels wrong to even say this, but I do good work. I should want people to watch what I do. I should want people to read what I do. I should feel like it's worthy of that. And the joke has always been, I can promote other people for days, and I totally can. I promoted Enmart. I've built communities for Linny Penny and Applique Getaway, or enlarged the communities that were already there. I can do that. I built the Women in Garment Decoration Facebook group, granted not alone, but I was part of it. I created the Women in Garment Decoration podcast for two regular guys, and that is still going. And so I can do it. I have the skill set. I can do it, but I can't do it for me. And that's something I need to figure out. And maybe it's low self-esteem, maybe it's childhood training, maybe it's being told that I'm not worth it or I'm not worthy or whatever it is. Could be a million of those things. But here's the thing, none of that is true. If you do good work, it deserves to be noticed. If you want people to notice you, that's not a bad thing. And that, I think, is something I need to wrap my head around. If I want to be noticed, it's not me bragging. It's not me having an ego. It's just me being proud of something I did. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it feels wrong in my heart or my gut or my brain, or I don't know, my hands are going everywhere because I can't pick which part. But, all right, I want to hit a few more comments here. And thank you for all these. These are very sweet. Lisa said, I feel like I'm annoying by constantly sharing my own posts. Totally. I get that. And Cindy, who has been my constant viewer for like ever. Thank you, Cindy, for being here. I think this is Moya again saying, I feel the same. I think a lot of people do. And that may be something I do a webinar or seminar on at some point. And Lisa says, you are a great facilitator of bringing great minds together to make something special. Well, thank you for that. That means a lot. But that's really something that I want to look at too, is, okay, if this is something that I can do, how do I use that? Because I do seem to be somebody that can create communities. So how do I use that? What do I do with that? How do I manifest that? I mean, like I said, this show did not have a plan when it started. And the person who is sitting here talking to you now is light years away from the person who started this. I mean, like quantum leaps away. And who knows where I'll be in 2 more years or 3 more years or 10 more years. You know, if I keep working on myself, if I keep trying new things, if I keep making connections and finding my tribe in the places where I'm supposed to be, who knows what could happen. And really, honestly, that's another reason why this is ending, is because I realized that for the first time in my life, and I am 54 years old, I can do anything. I'm not locked into a job. I am the face of a few companies, but the companies for which I am the face are not constraining me in any way because they trust that I'm not going to do anything that's going to negatively affect them, which is wonderful. But I don't have to. I can say what I want. I can do what I want. I'm a free agent. It's never happened to me before. And part of being a free agent is realizing that you have an abundance of choices. You have this abundance of things that you could do. So which ones are you going to pick? And sometimes you just start something just to see if it's possible. And then you discover it's possible, and suddenly there's all these implications that you never knew. If I had tanked on camera, then there wouldn't be any potential other podcasts because I would have tanked, but I didn't. So now there's all this potential that I could do webinars and I could do seminars and I could do live talks, that I could do another show or two on different topics. And I have some ideas that I'm not going to talk about right now, but I have some ideas. There's so many things. This makes me laugh. The evolution of Christine, Lisa says, did you imagine you'd be in this place a couple of years ago? No, not at all. And I want to say this. This is not the perfect place. There are still things I need to work on. I still have a lot of crap I need to deal with. I'm fully aware of that. I will probably be excavating things for the rest of my life because some of it's just deep and it's going to take a really long time to resolve. I get that. But no, this person now, the person that I was when I was 20 or 25 or 30, could not even imagine being this person. It's funny because I'm going to tell you a little story because I didn't realize why I was so adamant about this until just recently. And once I got it, it was like, oh, this makes so much sense to me. So when I was younger, I went by Chris. This is before college, but so high school, junior high, that kind of stuff, I went by Chris. When I got to college was the same time that the Phantom of the Opera came out. And the Phantom of the Opera, the heroine of the opera of the show, is named Christine. And for some reason, when I heard the soundtrack and they were singing Christine, I was like, that's a really pretty name. I should go by that. And I started using Christine. Now, for a long time, my family would not call me Christine. And the excuses they gave me were, well, it's really hard to remember just because we called you Chris for so long, or what does it really matter? Why is this such a big deal for you? Blah, blah, blah. And I never really had an answer as to why it mattered, but I knew it really, really mattered to me. I did not want to be Chris anymore. And I actually have one of the people that I worked with at one of the jobs that I had said, I called you Chris the first time that I met you, and I thought you were such a bitch because you just glared at me and said, do not ever do that again. My name is Christine. And I was like, and I hadn't even realized it. That was just the instinct reaction. So long story short, I have an uncle who I dearly love, who we have dinner once every couple months, and he's very sweet. And he still calls me Chris every once in a while. And the last time we had dinner, he did that. And I kind of snapped at him. And I said, please don't do that. I really, really don't like it. And he kind of looked at me and he said, but I knew you as Chris for a really long time. Why does that bother you? And I said, and it just kind of came out of my mouth. And the answer I gave him was, because I don't like who that person was. I didn't like being her. I didn't like being Chris. Chris was weak, and Chris didn't like herself, and Chris was sad, and Chris was depressed, and I didn't like her. I don't want to be her. I want to be Christine. Christine is a different person. And I never really realized why it mattered to me that much until I said it to him. And then I was like, oh, that's why. Now, it's just a weird thing in my brain, but in my brain, Christine is this person. Chris is somebody else. Chris was the girl who got picked on. Chris was the girl who got bullied. Chris was the girl who got sexually abused. And yes, I am still all those things inside me. Obviously, I have to deal with them. But I'm also stronger now. And I also like myself now. And I also am proud of myself now. And I also am braver now. And Christine reminds me of that. Which is a weird thing to say, I know, because it's just a name and what does it matter? But I really, really don't like being called Chris or any kind of shortening of my name at all. My name is Christine. That's what it is. And I don't know. That story is a weird story because on one hand, it's like, wow, you have some really weird little tendrils up in that brain of yours. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of people who can get that. If you were one way and you do a lot of work on yourself to become something else, sometimes you do need a symbol that shows that, hey, I'm not that person anymore. And for me, that symbol is my name. I don't know if it makes sense. Um, Lisa likes my excavating thing comment. She says, that's a great description that so many of us can relate to. I really think that is what it is. Lisa, it's a major turning point story. Great self awareness. Yeah, self awareness that happened like 2 months ago, but better late than never, I guess. I don't know. I mean, one thing that this show has been really good for is it has allowed me to talk through a lot of stuff, and it has allowed me to share a lot of the stuff that I've learned. And maybe it's also a way to take some of the things that were hard that I went through and give them a meaning that was good. Because maybe if I tell the stories that I tell, I help somebody else. And thank you, Mo. I really do appreciate that. She says, not weird at all, in my humble opinion. I definitely can relate. Thank you. But that was part of this show too, was that I started it in the midst of COVID, and I wanted connection, and I wanted a way to put some good into the world, because I'm sure you all remember what it was like when COVID started. It was scary as heck. It was scary, and I wasn't sure that the government knew what they were doing or that they even cared. And everybody was isolated and people were dying and we didn't know what was happening. And it was terrifying. And I thought, well, maybe I can put this little ray of light out into the world. So, yeah, I mean, part of it was just to see if I could put my face on camera and not throw up, which turned out I could. But another part of it was, can I put a little light into the world? Can I put a little bit of, hey, I survived some stuff, and if I did, you can too. And here's what I learned from surviving the stuff I survived. And hopefully maybe it helps some of you. And yes, some of that was selfish because a lot of the stuff I survived was not fun. And in some weird part of my brain, sharing the stories and maybe other people getting things from them was a way to redeem what happened. And I'm loving you guys for the comments. Carolyn says, you certainly have, and I thank you for it. And Carolyn, I mean, honestly, the things that I have to thank you for are legion, because you were instrumental in creating this set. You were instrumental in getting me to think about how I looked, and I appreciate you so much. I really, really do. And Wendy says, my brother has gone through the same thing as well. He was Jason as a boy and RJ in his 20s and 30s, not a good time. And now he is Roy. It is a struggle to not call him Jason, but I am proud of the man he has become, so I make sure to call him Roy. And Wendy, I love you for that so much, because you get it. And honestly, you know, there's this whole phenomenon that they talk about in the trans world mostly, called dead naming, where you use someone's former name. And to me, that's just a lack of respect. And that's honestly part of the reason that I don't really see much of my family anymore. The ones that I do see are the ones that make a sincere effort to call me what I want to be called. The ones that I don't see are the ones that don't, because that's a lack of respect. I am telling you, this matters to me. This bothers me. Please don't do it. And if you can't even be bothered to pay that much attention to what matters to me, then you don't really need a place in my life, honestly. And if that's harsh, that's harsh. But you know what? My life and my self-esteem are hugely better since there have been some people that I said, yeah, it was fun, but time to go now. And thank you for saying this, Lisa. Lisa said, you also brought guests to chat with us that shared parts of their life that so many of us related to. And I have to say, of the things that I am proud of about this show, that's one of them. That people came on the show who said, I don't have any stories to tell. I don't have anything to share. And then ended up saying something really profound and meaningful. And that so many people were willing to come and share their stories and their struggles and their triumphs and their hurts. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. That they trusted me enough to do that. They trusted that I would handle them gently and carefully. That's a huge amount of trust to place in someone. And I know because I've been a guest on other shows. And when you're a guest on somebody else's show, you are trusting them to not make you look bad. And not all of them can always do that. So it's a huge amount of trust you're placing in someone. So the fact that my guests were willing to talk about hard things and sad things and scary things with me is huge. The fact that I was willing to talk about that I did a show without makeup, which for me is like, that was the most nerve-wracking show ever. Probably the only show that would be worse than that would be doing a show with short sleeves, which you will probably never see me do. Largely because I don't like the way my arms look, but it's something I need to work on. But yeah, there was a lot of taking chances on this show, more than I expected from me and from other people on the show. And I'm so, so grateful for that. This has been, honestly, on multiple levels, a transformative experience. And I'm immensely proud of every episode of this show that's ever happened. Even the ones that I thought were awful, I'm still proud of them. Even the ones in the beginning when I looked like a homeless person, I'm still proud of them. Because I did them. Because maybe they put something out there in the world that was good or somebody needed to hear. Because I was brave and other people were brave. And you don't get that all that often. That's vulnerability, and that's being real, and that's communicating. And you don't always see that. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, not gonna lie, there's a little part of me that's sad that this is over. There's a little part of me that feels like I should keep going. But I don't. I feel like this has done what it's supposed to do. This has done what I wanted it to do. This has done more than I wanted it to do, honestly. And it's time to look at what the next level is. It's time to look at what the next thing is. And it's also time, honestly, to invest a little time in, okay, what do I want? Because a lot of the times I tend to be focused on what I can do for the world or other people or how I can help. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we should all be that way. But I focus on that sometimes to the detriment of, what can I do for myself? What do I want? What matters to me? And I need to start thinking about that too. Because we all need to start thinking about that. It's not selfish to be thinking about that. It's not self-obsessed to be thinking about that. And yeah, that's past damage that's talking to you right there. But it's past damage that's still talking to me too. So I need to work that out. And maybe that means that I need to go see somebody and get into therapy for a while. That's something I've been thinking about. I started journaling again, and it's been helping a lot. I've also been, it sounds silly, but I've also been writing letters to people that hurt me in the past and getting some of this stuffed feeling that I was never able to express to them physically out. And strange as it sounds, it's helped. So if there's one thing that you guys take away from this, that you take away from this show, that you take away from this today, it's don't stint on taking care of yourself. If you have damage, figure out how to deal with it. And don't be down on yourself because you have damage, because everybody does. Everybody has damage. I don't care if you grew up in the most perfect family in the entire world. Somewhere in your life, you got dinged by someone. It happens. It's part of life. Some of us carry a little more damage than others. That's just how it goes. But the only way the damage wins is if you don't look at it, realize what it is, and figure out how to work with it. That doesn't mean get rid of it. It doesn't mean deny it. It doesn't mean forget it. It means acknowledge that it's part of you and figure out how to work with it or around it. That fat little girl who got picked on in swim class in 7th grade, she still lives in me. Hugely. I still have a reflexive recoil when I see little skinny blonde cheerleaders who are about 13, because those girls made my life hell for a year. It's always going to be with me. Even though I'm 54 now and I've moved far past that, it's always going to be with me. But I can learn to deal with it. I can learn from it. I can tell you the stories, and maybe other people who are having similar experiences can learn from those. So if you have damage, you don't have to parade it. You don't have to participate in the tragedy Olympics. Nobody gets a gold medal for having the worst story. But you can acknowledge it, you can work on it, you can learn from it, you can help other people with what you've learned. There's a lot that can come out of it. I mean, honestly, half of the impetus for this podcast was to talk about stuff that was hard and damaging. And was it always fun? No, it wasn't always. But it was worth it. So, and I'm laughing. Cindy's comment here. Oh my God, I was late to the show today. Now I find out it's the last show. Now I am sad. Oh, well, I'm sorry you're sad, Cindy, but it's not like we're never going to talk again. So I'll be around, and trust me, I'm already thinking about other shows that I can do. So I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I just basically wanted to say thank you to everybody that was on the show. Thank you to everybody who supported the show. Thank you to everybody who ever commented on the show or helped promote the show. Thank you. This has been an amazing experience. It has changed me in ways I never, ever, ever would have predicted. And I'm proud of what I created. I'm proud that it exists. It's still going to exist. The Women in Business Facebook page is still going to be up. It's still going to be on YouTube. All of that is going to happen. I'm just going to stop doing this for a while. You'll still see me around, trust me. I'm just not going to be here on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. anymore. And that makes me a little sad, but it also makes me really, really happy. And I think the happy wins because I created something and it's there and you can see it and you can watch it and hopefully you can get something out of it. And you know what? I'm really, really proud of myself because I'm not going to lie. There were times when this was really hard for me. And that I was able to work through it and become this person makes me really, really happy. Even though I look like I'm going to cry right now, but just thank you, everybody. Really. Thank you to those watching. Thank you to those who aren't watching. Thank you to all of you. I really, really appreciate it. And honestly, I'm pretty excited to see what's next. And that's it. I'm going to shut it down because I could ramble for another 15 minutes, but there's really no point. So thanks, everybody. Bye.